Hello students, today we are going to start or understand very important concept. Is we are going to understand the difference between revolution, rotation and rolling, what is pure rolling and what is axis of rotation, what is instantaneous axis of rotation. We are going to discuss about these four concepts. Okay, generally students are confused among these terms, and they are not aware of these terms, and they do not understand it properly. That's why I have decided to explain these concepts to students so that they can understand it properly with suitable example. Now first I will like to explain what is rotation. Rotation, as you all know, means suppose you have some coin, or you have some, suppose it is, I have a book, suppose this book I want to rotate it about a axis. Suppose this one is axis, this finger is my axis, and this book is rotating about this axis. So this is called as rotation, like it is rotating around an axis. So what is the significance? What is your observation here? When something rotates about an axis and that axis passes through the body itself, then what happens? You can see that every point on that body has the same angular velocity omega. You can experience it also. Suppose someone is standing at this point and someone is standing over here, and that body is rotating like this. May it be anti-clockwise or clockwise, it doesn't matter. So after completing one rotation, they will complete the one rotation in same time, right? Means the person who is standing here also, he will also complete the rotation in the same time about that axis, and that person will also complete the rotation in same time. And if you take any random point over the body and on the rotating body, and the body is rotating with some angular velocity, then every point on that body will rotate with same angular velocity only. So what we can understand about rotation? Rotation means that every point on the body will have same angular velocity as of the body itself. That will be angular velocity omega, right? And what is revolution then? Now the book is revolving about my hand. Now the axis is different, right? In case of rotation, what happens is that the axis is always passes through the body itself, right? But in case of revolution, one object is revolving about other object. Now this is revolution, right? So you must be knowing the difference between rotation and revolution, right? Generally students are confused, like what is rotation, what is revolution. Now the point here you have to remember is that in case of rotation, the angular velocity of that body will be a property of that body. Like every point on the body will have same angular velocity as of the body itself. You can understand it also, like I am repeating the same example. You can take any point and you can see that in completing one rotation, every point is taking same time if it is rotating about a axis, right? So this is rotation, and in that example where I showed you, like an object is revolving about an axis, and that axis is outside the object which is revolving, right? Now earth is revolving about the sun, and at the same time earth is rotating about its own axis, right? Now come to the rolling. What is rolling? You must have seen that children play with cycle tire or maybe bike tire. They generally play with cycle tires. So in that case we understand rolling, right? It is rotating as well as it is going forward or going backward. Means rolling is made up of two kinds of motion. That is, it will have translatory motion backward. It will be going straight, like forward or backward, this kind of motion, like, and it will be moving forward, and at the same time it will be rotating also. This is rolling, right? This is rolling, means it is going forward also, and at the same time it is rotating also. So this is rolling, right? So now you must be understanding what is rolling, what is revolution, and what is rotation, right? So I am going to another new topic. Actually, it is a means it is not that easy concept. You will not, maybe you will not understand it properly in one or two line of definition. But I am trying to give you an idea, like whenever you study that topic in detail, you will not have confusions. You will have all your basics clear, right? So I am going to introduce one typical topic which is generally taught in rotational motion chapter in class 11, that is axis of rotation and instantaneous axis of rotation, right? So axis of rotation, in this case, what is axis of rotation? This one is axis of rotation, right? This book is rotating about this axis. My finger is here, acts like axis. For when book is rotating, here my finger is acting like an axis, right? So now what is instantaneous axis of rotation? Generally you will find this in case of rolling, like right, what happens in case of rolling, in pure rolling, what happens, like object is translating as well as object is rotating. You can take the example of bicycle, right? When you ride bicycle, then the tire of bicycle, what happens, the bicycle moves forward as well as the tire rotates about its axis, right? So that is the example of rolling. So in that case, in case of rolling, you have to find an axis, right, where you can say that at that instant that object is rotating about that axis. Then you can say this is the instantaneous axis of rotation. In such case, it is not like it is an imaginary axis. It may not lie on the body, or it may be just touching the body. We cannot be sure of that. It depends on cases, right? But what I am trying to make you understand is that if you are trying to understand instantaneous axis of rotation, which you will study in detail in rotation chapter, right? But I am trying to make you understand the basics of it, right? So when you will learn that topic in detail, you will have your basics clear, right? So I am repeating what I told now. Like in case of instantaneous axis of rotation, you have to define an axis. In case of rolling, right? In case of rolling, what is happening? That it is rotating about its axis, as well as it is translating also, right? But that axis, you have to define an axis in such a way that the whole body is rotating about that axis. In case of rolling, the whole body is not rotating about an axis, right? If you take this axis, then it is not rotating about this axis, and that axis is not fixed, right? It is moving, the whole body is moving forward and rotating also. But if you want to define instantaneous axis of rotation, you will have to take that axis about which you can confirmly say that whole body is rotating. Then that axis, and it will be instantaneous only, it will keep on changing, right? So it will keep on changing. So that at that time you can say that this is the instantaneous axis of rotation, which means at about that axis the whole body can be assumed to be rotating, right? The whole body can be assumed to be performing rotational motion, right? So at that time you can say this is the instantaneous axis of rotation. What happens actually in case of rotation, the axis passes perpendicularly to the rigid body, right? Suppose this is case of pure rotation, so the axis is always perpendicular to the velocity component of the rigid body, right? So you have to define an axis in such a way that the net velocity of the rolling object is always perpendicular to that axis. Then you can say that axis is instantaneous axis of rotation. So how do we do that? In case of instantaneous axis of rotation in pure rolling, you can see the point of contact. We define an axis at the point of contact where you can safely say that every point on the rigid body is rotating about that axis at an instant. So you define that axis in such a way that it is an axis, imaginary axis, about which a body can be assumed to be doing pure rotational motion, and that axis keeps on changing it. That's why we call that axis as instantaneous axis of rotation. It is not fixed. It is defined for an instant, right? So for that instant, the net velocity, you will study in detail about this, why I am telling about net velocity and all. Now I am trying to make you understand that the net velocity of every point on the rigid body will be perpendicular to that axis, and we can assume that about that axis the object is performing rotational motion for that instant. That is called instantaneous axis of rotation. So I think now you are clear with rotation, revolution, and what is instantaneous axis of rotation. Thank you.